Hello there, survivors. Welcome back to another video in ARK Survival Ascended, and today we're taking a look at some of my favorite build locations on Aberration. And of course, there's probably many more spots, especially with all the verticality on this map, as well as of course the new addition of the cliff platforms, which allow you to build in so many different places here. So if you do know any other good spots, please leave the coordinates down in the comments below. But these are some of my favorites, and let's get into the first one. And the first location, definitely one of my favorite spots, is here right on the edge of the blue zone and the green zone. So you have the lush forests in the background, you have the nice river going over in a beautiful waterfall into the fabulous blue zone with the glowing trees. And I personally think this is a really good spot for gameplay reasons. Of course, it's convenient because you will have to go down into the blue a bunch, and then it just makes sense to kind of live on the edge here, as well as it's just a really nice spot. You've got still some of the beautiful forest in the background behind you. You have some relatively flat land out here where you can definitely do some building, as I'm building here myself as well. And there's actually some of the more useful things here. You have one of these charge stations right next to your base, which is always convenient, as well as the gas right there. So you can basically collect those two very important things quite easily from your base if you build somewhere over here. And let's be honest, it's just a pretty nice spot as well. The river, the waterfall's quite nice. Going into the blue, you can easily add some cliff platforms here as well if you want to expand and utilize some of the new building options with those platforms. And there's also already some natural zip lines to get you quickly in and out of the blue zone as well. So yeah, definitely a really nice looking spot, I think, and a great place to start building, as I speak from experience, because this is where I'm currently working on my first Aberration base as well. And it's located right here on the map. This location over here is also pretty good. It's quite close to the portal spawn, which is right in there with the broken bridge right here. And where you have this giant platform up here where you could definitely build a base. It's quite big. It's relatively flat. Of course, it slightly goes up that way, but you do have plenty of space over here. But what I really like about it is the possibilities for platforms. You have some natural platforms already over here that you can definitely build like different buildings up, connect maybe a bigger tribe base with your friends. And of course, with the addition of cliff platforms and elevators, you can really turn this into a really cool place to live. Yeah, there's just a really cool potential here for a cliff facing base. Cliff platforms, cliff bases is going to be a really fun build here. You have a charging station right up there as well, which is always convenient to have close by. And down here, there's actually a gas spot as well, so you can even collect your gas close to the base, and then having this whole cliff face to basically play around with. Alternatively, you can also build down here in this valley, as you can see, also relatively flat, also a pretty cool spot to build. You could still go up with your cliff platforms, or if you're braver, you can also go down with some cliff platforms or some kind of base down on this cliff right here, which leads you into the blue. Now, the only downside if you do this, there's no natural way up really close to here. So if you want to go up out of the blue, you'll have to go the long way around or use cryos and build your own way up with zip lines, elevators, platforms, whatever you decide on doing. But it is a really cool spot. So right here on the map, we're at the edge of the blue. So that's the valley down below. And of course, a little bit upwards right over here. That's where the big platform at the start was. So yeah, really cool spot, especially if you're interested in a cliff base. Of course, we can't leave this one out. Here at the big lake, there is this massive structure that looks really cool. It's quite a unique element, of course. Normally, you have the ruins in the maps. Here, we have these kind of metal pieces that are all over the map. And this one is quite cool. Not only because it just looks really nice, but it's quite flat as well. So you can actually build quite easily on top of here and have these kind of cool big metal structures be a part of your base from the get-go. Yeah, like there's a big platform here, more than enough room for all your dinos, tames, or builds, whatever you want to do here. And with a amazing platform here sticking out with a good view of the lake and of the green zone. And of course, combining that with rock drakes, etc., this will be a really cool spot to take up from, even with the new Zeppelin, actually. Like, really convenient way to get flying, gliding in the air and go all over the place. Or maybe you're cool, like me, and you go spider sharking around the world to explore that way. But yeah, it is definitely a really cool spot and quite convenient, of course, since it is so flat. And yeah, you're pretty decently high up in the green zone, so it's one of the more safe locations on the map probably, although I don't know if there is such a thing as being safe here on Aberration. But if you're interested in this spot, the coordinates are right up here. As I said, it's all the way up top at the big lake, and yeah, a little out of the way, but you'll have a amazing looking spot to build on. And then the next spot, which is a little bit more of a foresty area, but you have this platform here, which is quite cool because it's quite big. Of course, some of these trees you would be able to clear out, give yourselves a little bit more open area, but you would still keep some of these bigger trees around, of course, to keep the forest feel. And yeah, it's a relatively flat spot as well, so easy to build on. Could be a really cool effect with some of those bigger trees. This is one of the ways onto the platform where you probably want to have some kind of wall or safety feature. You've got this big rock spike here as well. That could be a cool feature for your base. And then the best side, of course, is this side here, the big cliff into the rest of the world. You're right above the big river. Again, a charge location quite nearby. You got a natural zip line if you want to cross over to the other side. You also have this cool waterfall little river coming from the big lake up north. And yeah, just generally a pretty interesting spot to build on. There's not really any other connections, like this is all with gaps or like height differences, so that once you have secured the platform, you have a pretty big spot, pretty unique spot, and a pretty cool spot to build on. Also pretty close to this little cave cove, I don't know, with crystals, which is pretty cool to look at as well. But yeah, I just think this platform being relatively flat, especially if you build here on the edges where you can remove some of the trees, would be really, really cool to work with. And then yeah, you're still somewhat close to the big lake, and you have a relatively flat area that you could easily build a big base on. And it's located right here on the map. Now, a very good early game location, of course, would be spawning somewhere close to the portals. I personally think that there's some pretty cool spots in and around the portal area itself as well. For example, the bridge. But of course, depending on whether you play single player servers, this might not be possible for you to build that or already taken. But there's actually a really cool spot here as well, which is just like this general area next to the river. You got the cool waterfall to look at, and you have this amazing backdrop of the portals area and the broken bridge in the background, which is also just a relatively flat area. There is no real safe areas here, of course, but this is doable. Once you get some walls set up, you should be fine. And yeah, it's just a nice little spot to get you started without going into too much of the dangerous areas on the map. But of course, it's still Aberration. There's still a lot of danger around you, as on most of the map, especially with those new Yiling on the prowl almost everywhere here in the green zone. But yeah, this is a pretty nice spot, pretty flat, so you can easily build a nice little base to get you started and still enjoy some of the more unique landscaping options that Aberration has to offer with these amazing backdrops of the broken bridge and all those portals leading off to the blue zone. And this location is located right here on the map. This is another one of those locations that's more unique to Aberration because there's a lot of those metal structures that you find out here on the map, but still being overgrown with the forests. And there's actually a few spots along this road, basically, that you could easily build something cool out of. But I particularly like this spot right here. Got a little bit of like a platform that you could almost use as a guideline for your base. And then you have one of those bigger structures to kind of build up against, and just a nice little personal area here where you could maybe turn into a dino pen. And I kind of like one of these broken screens that you have as well, that you could use as part of your base. It's quite unique, of course, something that we can't really do ourselves. So I think it's just a nice, unique feature that you could use for your base. But as I said, there's basically a bunch of these structures along this path, so there's definitely a few other options as well. Like very close to this, you have one of these bigger ones as well that you could probably use. Yeah, you got a whole bunch of them with some of these nice platforms that are just fun elements to play around with. But yeah, I do think that one of my favorites is this one with the broken screen, just because of the unique vibe that offers. But yeah, depending on how big you want to go, there's plenty of those things around here in the area. And it just, yeah, again, I just think it would really make for a unique feature as part of your base. And this is the location. Okay, the next location is technically not here in the green zone, but you want to pass basically through from where the second waterfall goes into the blue zone. And there's actually a really nice platform here to the side that just streams for a base to be built on. And yeah, you do have plenty of space here. If you clear out those rocks, you'll definitely have a nice, relatively flat area to build on. And personally, I think it's a really cool move to go into the blue zone. It's very different, of course, from anything that we have on other maps. And once you get set up, of course, with the Yeeling, Rock Drake, Spider, just glider suit, actually, you can quite easily go in and out of the blue zone. And this is where you'll be doing most of the gameplay, I feel like, for Aberration, because so much that you need to do is either in the blue zone or even further down. So having a base right here makes a lot of sense. You're still close enough to the green zone so you can easily go in there. But yeah, you have a really unique location. And of course, either with cliff platforms, you could try to maybe have some kind of connection back up to the green. Or if you're using mods, like we have on my community server, they've actually done some of those clinger hanging bridges to use as ways to get back up. But even vanilla, you could just use zip lines, of course, with Ravagers to easily get back up there, or just glide, swing your way over there. There's so many options nowadays to get back up there. But yeah, this is definitely a really cool spot to build a base at. And it's located right here on the map. Another pretty cool location here in the blue is this little platform with this metal structure in the middle. Again, one of the unique elements of this map, of course, is all these like broken structures. You got one of the screens here as well. And you're still kind of like early in the blue zone, but a little bit deeper compared to the other bases. Yeah, like you can still see the green over there. Yeah, but you just have a nice little platform that would be easy to get somewhat safe. Of course, you would be bothered by keeping the place lit up as well properly, either with light pads or charge lanterns or whatever, to keep yourself safe from the nameless, of course. But yeah, it's a pretty fun spot, pretty unique, and if you're up for a challenge, it could be a really cool spot to build a base at. This one, of course, also has this charge spot, so you can even charge your batteries, which you might need if you're gonna live here and you want to ward off some of the annoying evils from the blue zone. But yeah, I do think it's a nice spot. Again, it's relatively flat, which is good for building, of course, and you'll have a very easy time going deeper into the blue from here, of course, since, well, you're already in the blue, but you're still kind of high up, which I like, because that makes the gliding, swinging with Cosmo, or whatever way you want to travel around here, just a little bit easier to get going. And it's located right here on the map. So another cool spot, but definitely a lot more dangerous, as you can see, because of all the things that can spawn here, is right over here. You do have another one of these cool elements, being one of those metal things sticking out of the ground. It is also a relatively flat area, so you could definitely be building a base. you're kind of overlooking the start of the red zone over here, which could be convenient if you're trying to go out for reapers regularly, or, you know, rock drakes or whatever. This could be a really cool place for an outpost, but definitely isn't the safest. As you can see, you're close to the water, a lot of nasties that are spawning here, and of course, if you go far over the edge or just slightly over the edge, you'll start getting radiation as well. So definitely not the easiest spot to build at, but personally, for an outpost, I think it would be a really cool spot to build at, just because of, like, you still have the elements of the blue. I love this tree on the other side of the river as well, and I kind of like the fact that you're able to see all this danger right next to you. But again, not the easiest place to build at, but it could be really, really cool. And if you're brave enough, this is the location. And to end it off, since I kind of wanted to balance the spots with more than just a green zone, I've got another one here in the blue. As you can see, it's definitely one of the more dangerous spots. You've got this cool ring cage that is going all the way down into where the rock drakes are found. You've got the path into the red zone as well, just a general red zone. But this spot right here on the edge is still, well, I was going to say safe. It's definitely not safe. But here is another spot that you might be able to build a cool outpost if you're brave enough. You've got one of these metal elements. You've got a beautiful glowing tree. Although, if you're going to build here, you might want to get rid of at least this one. And it's a little bit more of a rough area to build with. But I think it's still a pretty nice spot, especially if you build somewhat close to the edge. That should still be possible in radiation if I tested it correctly, and you'll just have an amazing view over the red zone, and just like this central area where you drop down into the map. And of course, with the right kind of tools, this might be really convenient, because you can drop straight down into the rock drake trench, or go out for reapers or whatever you want, and you'll definitely have a very cool and unique base location. Although it's definitely not safe, it's definitely not going to be easy, but it will definitely be very, very, very cool. So yeah, again, if you're brave enough, this could be a cool spot for you. And it's located right here on the map.